How's it going, everyone? My name is Alex from the Cigar Guys, and today we're going to be talking about how to find the perfect cigar or cigars for your preferred flavor profile, what your preferred taste is essentially. Right now I'm finishing up a base cigar to go along with this video. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But basically, we're going to start with different flavor profiles that you find in different cigars. There's a lot of variations, so I'll give you a very brief, superficial, essentially explanation of what you can find with these different cigars. Different flavor profiles, for example, might be something like nutty or woody flavor tones. You might also get some spice, cocoa, espresso. These are flavor notes that cigar smokers pick up when they're enjoying a cigar. Nothing that's infused or artificial, but the flavor notes that come naturally from the tobacco you are enjoying. You have cigars that are more on what we call the mild side, which is oftentimes lighter in body, so they're not as strong, and the flavor profile is not as intense. This is preferred for a lot of newer cigar smokers that want to kind of dip their toes in the water. They'll go for a more milder cigar, something like a Connecticut or a lighter Ecuadorian Habano. You can get notes of wood, different types of wood like oak, maybe cedar. You'll enjoy some nutty notes. People might taste, for example, almond or cashew, something like that. It's basically whatever comes to mind when you're enjoying that cigar. Other flavor notes for the more mild side would be like hay or floral notes. Some people might taste like grass. It really just depends on what comes to mind when you're enjoying these cigars. When you go more towards the middle, medium body, medium intensity in terms of, the nicotine content, in terms of complexity of flavors, you get something like an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper or a Corojo wrapper. A lot of times these are medium in color as well. So in terms of lighter and darker, you find these cigars kind of in the middle of the color scheme. You start to taste more notes like cocoa or a little bit of espresso, maybe some leathery notes as well. And these are notes that transcend throughout all the different types of cigars. But generally in the middle, you find more of these middle of the road flavors. You might still get some hay. You might still get more of the spice, different kinds of flavor notes. But essentially, when we talk about medium body, it's a step up from mild. You're getting more intense flavors. You're getting a little more nicotine sometimes. And then when we go to full body, it becomes a little more intense. The flavor is more intense, it's more complex. The nicotine oftentimes is a little higher as well. When you go to the more full body side, more commonly you see cigars that use a darker wrapper like a Maduro or an Oscuro, generally speaking. You'll get more intense spice notes, oftentimes more of a rich cocoa and a rich espresso. Pepper all over the board. You might get some black pepper, maybe some red pepper. It depends on what the blender's intentions are. But the full body cigars are gonna be a more rich, a more heightened experience. If you're looking for more of a buzz, generally that's what's gonna happen. And all the flavor notes are gonna be more intense. So if you've been smoking cigars for a while, that's definitely a preference amongst a lot of cigar smokers, that they enjoy a good Padron Maduro, or maybe like a Foundation, one of the Tabernacles. That's kind of a couple examples of something that's more on the full body side. Now we're gonna dive a little bit more into strength and body. As we kind of stated, body is about the complexity of the flavors of the cigar. So more mild, it's gonna be a little less complex. When you go more full body, it's more complex, more rich. There's a lot of flavors to unpack there. But when it comes to strength, we're talking about the nicotine content and how strong the cigar is. So oftentimes the more mild cigars are going to be also mild in strength. So a lot of times a new cigar smoker can enjoy a more mild cigar. They won't get as much of the nicotine buzz right away. They're able to enjoy it and kind of find themselves in what they're enjoying. And then of course you go to medium, the nicotine content, generally speaking, is going to be heightened a little bit. You might get a little buzz. You might be a little more relaxed and feeling the nicotine content more. When we go to full body, of course, that's gonna be oftentimes higher in strength, higher nicotine content. It's not gonna be anything crazy, especially if you've been smoking cigars for a while. A lot of people get used to the nicotine and they're able to enjoy full body cigars in order to tap into that rich flavor, the complexity of the blend that the blenders wanted to provide to you guys. But essentially, it all comes down to what your preference is. Some people strictly prefer smoking more mild cigars. They don't want to have a lot going on. They just enjoy a very mild cigar in the morning with their coffee. And then of course, it can go all the way to full body. Some people strictly smoke full body cigars. They enjoy that intensity, the complexity. They enjoy that spice, the richness. That's the beauty about cigars. All these different varieties is there's something for everyone. There's something for your preference, and it doesn't matter if you like the more mild or the more medium or full body. It's something for everyone. We're also going to talk about the importance of the size and the shape, otherwise known as the fetola of the cigar. Size is very important when it comes to the amount of time you have. Cigars come in many different lengths, for example, some as short as maybe 3 inches all the way up to some crazy 20 inches. Generally speaking, most cigar smokers will find themselves between the 5 and 7 inch range in terms of length. And the size of the ring gauge also matters too. So basically how thick or how thin the cigar might be. So taking time into account, if you have an hour to smoke your cigar, a Toro is a pretty safe bet. Maybe a Robusto if you smoke a little on the slower side. Some people can finish a Churchill in an hour, but the length will kind of help you gauge your time frame. If you have 3 hours, you might be able to get a big Churchill or a Super Toro, and you kind of learn these things as you begin your journey, and as you further your journey into cigar smoking, you can kind of gauge what size is perfect for your time. If you only got 30 minutes, you might want to get a Petite Corona or a short Robusto, something that you can finish rather quickly. The ring gauge is important too in terms of flavor. When you have a thinner ring gauge, like a Lancero, which comes between like a 38 or a 42 ring gauge, it's a longer and thinner cigar, and that thinner ring gauge allows you to taste more of the wrapper because there's a higher wrapper to filler ratio. So you're tasting more of the flavor that's coming from your wrapper. So if it's a Mexican San Andreas wrapper, you're gonna get a lot of that intense spice and some cocoa and espresso towards the middle as well. When you have a bigger ring gauge, like those 6x60s or even the 70s, you're gonna taste more of the filler, and oftentimes that might lead to more of the nicotine content as well. So it depends on preference. Once again, some people prefer the thinner ring gauges because they like the flavor of the wrapper and they want to be able to taste that. People that like bigger ring gauges want to taste more of the filler components of the cigar and maybe get a little bit more of a buzz. So that's just a matter of preference. But again, when it comes to size, it mostly depends on the time you have to smoke, but a lot of times too, it depends on your preference of flavor and how you enjoy your cigars. So that's basically a very brief synopsis of how you can determine what cigar is right for your taste and your preference. I hope you guys found this video informative. Be sure to check out Besa Cigars at besacigar.com. If you're looking for a more full body cigar, we have the Mexican San Andreas. If you're looking for something on the lighter side, Ecuadorian Habano as well. But again, thanks for tuning in. My name is Alex from the Cigar Guys, and we'll see you next time.